welcome back to StoryTime with Eric Zimmer. Having read the beginning of Volume 2 of Disney, They Drew as They Pleased, now we're going to get into the artists behind the 1940s. Starting with number 1, the Bug Orchestra and Walt Scott. So you ready? Alright, let's begin. Chapter 1, The Bug Orchestra and Walt Scott. We pick up with much more music and boom, something changes. Stokowski's conducting bugs, Walt Disney to his artists. Walt Disney was not afraid to kill his artists' best ideas, or his own, if they detracted from the main story. Nor did Walt's obsession with strong characters and personalities distract him from one simple rule. The overall story is king. If need be, some great ideas had to be slain in the service of the greater narrative. That included the Bug Orchestra sequence in Fantasia. And here's a picture of it by Lloyd Harding. Anyways, the idea for the Bug Orchestra sequence was conceived by Walt's story artist to accompany the overture of the Nutcracker Suite. Don Christensen, Lloyd Harding, and Walt Scott were the artists behind the sketches. Christensen and Harding's work had a familiar cartoony aesthetic. Christensen was a talented story artist, and Lloyd Harding was an excellent layout man. Walt Scott, however, was quickly becoming the standout concept artist of the group. His drawings were distinguished with a crispness of image and a powerful sense of design. The three artists created sketches of a small grasshopper orchestra, which soon evolved into a full-blown insect orchestra. Walt loved it. We've just shown off this little 100-piece orchestra of Stokowski's playing, then the toccata and fugue, and have gone to town on concentrating on the power of this thing. And now we start out again. The audience begins to get bored as we pick up with much more music and boom, something changes. He's conducting bugs. I would like all possible suggestions with quite a bunch of little bugs and their violins. There's nothing new with the Bug Orchestra. We've done it before, but the connection with Stokowski is new. We've always made them clown, but now we're treating them from a serious angle. We've seen a lot of good things spoiled because we get scared and gag too much. Make them cute without going too far. What really excited Walt about this concept were the strong characters and personalities that could be developed. We've got to get characters in our bugs, and if we could get bugs that are sort of like the people in an orchestra, you study a sympathy orchestra, and there's a serious fellow that plays a bassoon. To me, a bassoon is a funny instrument, yet you see a bassoon player. He wears glasses and he looks like he has liver trouble, a very serious guy, and the drummer, the guy that holds the cymbals, is always some big fat guy that should be playing the tuba. And the tuba player is always a little guy. You get those caricatures with these bugs. That's why I am crazy about this praying mantis thing, because it's a caricature of a harpist with a bug. Now, if we can do that with our other bugs some way, that's what your spider is, a caricature of a guy with all his sticks in his hand. It's why I like the bugs with the 3 arms and fiddles. That's something that's funny as it is. You don't have to go outside to get gags. Here's this fellow, he's very serious, and he's playing the top one very slowly, and the next one down is a bouncing bow, and the next one is a pizzicato. And it's all right here, if you went down the line. This one little fellow still has, while he's playing up there, he still has one arm free to scratch. It's all right because it's right in character, and he wouldn't pay any attention to it. He would go right on playing, but with this one hand he could scratch his leg and get back for the other notes. Just to have bugs, they all look and they all look the same, and they're all sort of stylized cartoon bugs, we'll have nothing. So we've got to try to find bugs or little insects that fit these various parts. However, despite his enthusiasm, Walt realized that the Nutcracker sequence needed a unifying theme. In September of 1938, he brought the book The Fairy Circus by Dorothy Lathrop to the attention of his artists. The beautifully illustrated volume showcased night fairies, small animals, and an exquisite universe of dandelions and cobwebs. Walt decided that the fairies were the unifying theme he had been looking for all along. Once that decision was made, in January of 1939, Walt knew that the Bug Orchestra had to go. The authors of the Bug Orchestra, Don Christensen, Lloyd Harting, and Walt Scott must have been saddened by the decision. Particularly heartbreaking was the fact that Walt Scott's arresting character designs would not make it to the screen this time around. From the Dunks to the Dancing Mushrooms. Walter Emil Scott was born in Sandusky, Ohio on August 9, 1894, the third of four children born to railroad clerk Walter and his wife Amelia. In 1916, Scott moved to Cleveland and studied art through night classes at the Cleveland Show of Art. While at school, he met fellow artist Joseph Gicha, and the two young men decided to set up their own commercial art studio. Several years later, Walt joined the staff of the Cleveland Press before moving to its competitor, the Plain Dealer, in 1922, where he met the man who would become his mentor, nationally known artist and Plain Dealer art director Gordon Barrick. What little I know about art came from the teaching, patience, and kindness of Doc Barrick, Scott recalled many years later. While most of Walt's early drawings for the Plain Dealer, like his illustrations for the strip Dramatic Events in Bible History by Harlow R. Hoyt, are not particularly memorable, one gets a sense of Scott's talent from the cover he created for the October 24, 1926 issue of the Plain Dealer fiction magazine. The drawing featured four gnome-like characters with huge ears. By 1933, those characters, known as the Dunks, were the heroes of the Sunday comic page. In 1935, after 13 years on the staff of the Plain Dealer, Scott joined the Newspaper Enterprise Association, NEA. It is likely thanks to the syndication efforts of the NEA that his drawings attracted the attention of the Disney studio. By the end of 1938, Scott was exchanging friendly correspondence with George Drake, the head of the studio's in-between department. On September 13, 1938, Walt Scott was convinced to move to California to join Disney's layout department. His boss at the studio was Lloyd Harting. Lloyd must have noticed Scott's talent right away, because only a few weeks after arriving, Scott was involved in a Fantasia story meeting. Despite being new, Scott was not shy. While others would have hesitated to voice their opinion in front of Walt Disney, Scott contributed at least one suggestion during the meeting. On the Chinese dance, could we use a background of black with subdued designs of grasses, and yet we wouldn't start any action? The idea was greeted warmly by the other artists. Scott did not lose time in putting his idea to the test. The artwork he created for the Chinese dance and Russian dance sections of the Nutcracker Suite rank among some of the most arresting paintings developed by Disney concept artists over the years. The Chinese dance drawings were seen inspired both by Chinese lacquer screen art and by Art Deco motifs, are powerful examples of the color and the masterful design that distinguished Scott's work. Walt Disney took note. By December of 1938, Scott had taken over the design of the Bug Orchestra, with Lloyd Harting and Don Christensen being assigned to other projects. Like most of his concept art colleagues at the studio, Scott must have been a busy man in those days. Not only did he contribute to at least 3 sections of the Nutcracker Suite, he was also involved in 2 other Fantasia sequences: the Toccata and Fugue in D minor and Night on Bald Mountain. In his concept sketches for Night on Bald Mountain, he integrated some characters oddly similar to the Dunks. After Fantasia, the tall, mustached, and blue-eyed artist probably worked on Dumbo and Bambi, as he claimed in later years, but unfortunately, none of the art from those two movies can be easily attributed to him. In May of 1941, the Screen Cartoonists Guild voted to launch a strike at the Disney studio after the firing of star animator Art Babbitt, the creator of Goofy. The traumatic strike lasted until July and put an end to Scott's Disney career. He was laid off on September 12, 1941, like many at the studio, including Don Christensen and Lloyd Harting. The Bug Orchestra team was no more. Shortly after leaving the studio, Scott formed 801 Productions with his former Disney colleagues George Drake, Jack Bradbury, and Norman Wright. The company, which intended to produce a cartoon based on the adventures of a clown boxer named Weary Willie, did not go anywhere. In 1943, Walt Scott returned to the NEA, drawing several comic strips for them throughout the years, including Captain Easy, as an assistant to Les Turner, The Magic Egg, The Little Blue Duck, and The Animal's Christmas. His Little People characters, the descendants of the Dukes, which appeared in some of his Christmas stories of the 1950s, were converted into a Little People Sunday strip in 1952. Walt Scott was still working on the Little People strip in its companion series Huckleberry Hollow when he passed away in Rocky River, a suburb of Cleveland, on December 17, 1970. To be continued.